Stability does not prevent failure. It extends the time required for scale to reveal it. Systems expand by organizing movement, aligning information, and coordinating response across distance. At smaller levels, adjustment appears immediate. Signals move quickly enough to influence action before conditions change. But as scale increases, the same structures that once enabled coordination begin to introduce delay. Information arrives slightly later than required. Responses begin slightly after relevance. The system continues to function, but it does so with a growing separation between condition and correction. This separation does not interrupt activity. It accumulates within it. What appears as continuity becomes a sequence of delayed reactions, each one still aligned with a state that no longer exists. At the level of administration, Bronze Age systems were structured through layered coordination. Regional centers gathered information from surrounding territories, transmitted it upward, and received instructions in return. Goods moved along established routes, guided by schedules calibrated to seasonal rhythms and predictable transit times. Records documented quantities, destinations, and obligations. The system depended on synchronization between reporting, decision-making, and delivery. At smaller scales, this synchronization held. A delay of a few days could be absorbed by stored surplus or minor adjustments. But across larger distances, each layer introduced its own processing time. Messages waited to be recorded, sorted, and dispatched. Movement followed routes that required staging points, labor allocation, and environmental timing. Throughput was not continuous. It moved in intervals, structured by administrative capacity rather than immediate need. At the level of a single administrative center, reports arrived describing harvest yields from surrounding regions. By the time these records were compiled, conditions in the fields had already shifted. Instructions sent outward reflected a moment already past. Farmers adjusted planting or storage practices based on directives that corresponded to earlier conditions. The system did not stop. It continued to align action with information that had been accurate when it was first recorded. The delay remained small, but it established a pattern. Each cycle of reporting and response preserved the system's structure, while slightly extending the gap between condition and action. Across neighboring regions, this delay compounded. Grain shipments moved according to schedules determined weeks earlier. Caravans departed based on instructions that had already moved through multiple administrative layers. When one segment of the route experienced disruption, the information describing that disruption moved more slowly than the goods themselves. By the time an adjustment was issued, the disruption had already propagated further along the network. Local actors rerouted cargo or redistributed labor, not in anticipation of conditions, but in response to reports that described them after they had changed. Coordination remained intact. Its timing did not. At a wider scale, the system relied on predictable flows between distant regions. Surplus from one area offset scarcity in another. This balance required precise timing. Shipments had to arrive within narrow windows to maintain equilibrium. As routes lengthened, the time required for both movement and communication increased. A delay at one point introduced misalignment across the entire network. Administrative centers continued to issue instructions based on the most recent information available, but that information increasingly reflected earlier states. The system preserved its structure by continuing to process signals, even as those signals lost temporal accuracy. Within workshops and storage facilities, labor adjusted to this delay. Artisans produced goods according to quotas established in previous cycles. Storage managers allocated resources based on inventories that had already been altered by incoming or outgoing shipments. Maintenance crews repaired infrastructure according to schedules that did not account for recent changes in usage. Activity remained coordinated in form, but it drifted in timing. Each action aligned with the system's procedures rather than the system's current state. At the scale of interconnected regions, the pattern intensified. Administrative hierarchies required aggregation before action. Information moved upward, was processed, and then redistributed downward. Each stage preserved order, but introduced time. When conditions changed more rapidly than this cycle could accommodate, the system continued to operate according to its established sequence. Responses arrived after the moment in which they could have been effective. Corrections did not fail to occur. They occurred too late to influence the conditions that prompted them. The system compensated through accumulation. Additional records were kept to improve accuracy. More intermediaries were introduced to manage complexity. Infrastructure expanded to support increased volume. Each edition aimed to restore alignment between information and action. Instead, each edition increased the time required to process and transmit signals. Coordination became more elaborate, but not faster. The system maintained its capacity to respond, while gradually losing its ability to respond in time. In administrative centers, scribes recorded incoming reports with increasing detail. The volume of information grew, requiring more time to organize and interpret. Decisions based on this information reflected a more comprehensive understanding of past conditions, but not a more immediate awareness of present ones. The system improved its knowledge of what had been, while its ability to act upon what was diminished. At regional hubs, shipments continued to move according to established patterns. Delays in one area required redistribution from another, but the information enabling that redistribution lagged behind the need. Local adjustments filled the gap. Traders altered routes, labor shifted tasks, and storage practices adapted to temporary shortages. These adjustments sustained the system's appearance of continuity. They did not eliminate the underlying delay. They operated within it. At the level of the entire network, the accumulation of delay created a condition where coordination no longer matched pace. The system still connected regions, still moved goods, still processed information, but its responses increasingly addressed conditions that had already evolved. Each corrective action stabilized a state that no longer existed, allowing new misalignments to form before the previous ones were resolved. This pattern did not announce itself. It did not appear as a single disruption. It remained distributed across the system, embedded within ordinary processes. Administrative cycles continued. Logistics continued. Production continued. The system functioned according to its design, even as the relationship between information and action shifted further apart. The boundary emerges where delay can no longer be absorbed by accumulation. At this point, additional layers of coordination do not restore alignment. They extend the interval between signal and response. The system retains its structure, but its ability to adjust within the required time frame diminishes. Information continues to move. Decisions continue to be made, but the sequence connecting them no longer operates at the speed necessary to influence outcomes. What remains unclear is where this boundary begins. At what scale does the accumulation of administrative delay transform coordination into misalignment? Not through failure of structure, but through the persistence of processes that no longer match the conditions they are meant to regulate? The system does not collapse at this boundary. It continues to operate within it. Administrative cycles persist, even as their relevance shifts further into the past. Logistics networks remain active, moving goods according to patterns established under different conditions. Local adjustments continue to compensate for delays that originate elsewhere. The structure endures, not by resolving the delay, but by incorporating it into its ongoing function. Within this persistence, the pattern remains intact. Information continues to arrive after the moment it describes. Responses continue to follow conditions that have already changed. Coordination continues to organize activity across distance, even as the timing of that coordination drifts. The system does not exit this condition. It remains suspended within it, maintaining order through processes that extend the very delay they cannot overcome. Join us on Timeless Questions, where ancient stories, enduring ideas, and human nature meet in quiet reflection.